In previous episodes, we've looked at individual behaviour and group behaviour, emergent behaviour and social behaviour. We've looked at all of those from the point of view of all animals, including humans. In this episode, we're going to look at human behaviour in particular and see what it is that makes us a distinct species. You and I are modern humans, Homo sapiens, a species which has existed for just 200 to 300,000 years. We are the last survivors of the genus Homo, which first emerged in Africa some 2 to 3 million years ago. Biological evolution affects both anatomy and behaviour, and the two are closely linked. If you haven't got the right wings, you can't fly even if you're a bird. In this episode, we will look at some important features of human anatomy and their associated behaviours. A large brain, erect posture, lean physique and 2 legs, a hairless body and sweat glands, a powerful and precise grip, flexible and expressive face, and a very versatile vocal system. Over 6 million years, these characteristics have become evolutionary stable traits in modern humans. Evolved traits make characteristic behaviours possible, and they become evolutionary stable strategies in modern humans. Some of the most important ones are thinking, those activities associated with the brain, communicating, sharing thoughts and feelings, making, adapting the material world, cooking, processing food using heat, gathering, roaming to find food, networking, forming functional relationships, and hunting, pursuing animals for their meat. We'll begin with thinking. I'm going to use the term thinking here as a global term to cover all the activities of the brain, whether they're conscious or unconscious. That includes perception, conception, learning, memory, imagination, logic, reason, motor control, and decision making. Anything that the brain does. All animal brains are networks of interconnected cells called neurons, which communicate using electrical impulses and chemicals and are surrounded by glial cells, which help the neurons to function. All brains have the same types of cells, but they differ in structure and size in different families, orders and species of animals. They differ because each species has evolved to survive in their particular niche, in their particular environment and ecosystem. Their bodies are structurally different, and so are their brains. Brains have evolved over many millions of years and acquired new functions while doing so. The first and earliest function of the brain is to bring together sensory and motor activities using nerves so that an organism reacts automatically to its environment. The second function is to control the parts of the body which keep it stable. These include the heartbeat, breathing and digestion. The brain does this unconsciously in association with the nervous and endocrine systems. The third function of the brain is to learn and control motor functions so that an organism can balance and move around, crawl, walk, climb or fly, even ride a bike. This activity is conscious in the learning phase and becomes unconscious when the activity becomes automatic. The fourth and latest function to evolve is conscious thinking. This function includes the high-level cognitive activities of reason, decision-making, problem-solving, planning, and imagination. The human brain has the same basic structure as all other primate brains, each having a relatively large proportion devoted to higher-level cognitive functions of acquiring, storing, and using knowledge, or learning, memorizing and thinking. The human brain is larger than that of any other primates, and we have a correspondingly large capacity for knowledge. Filling large brains with knowledge takes time. Because we have evolved to stand upright on 2 legs, and we need to walk and run to survive, there is a limit to the size of a human pelvis. This means that the human head is also limited in size at birth, and is much smaller than the final size necessary to accommodate our large brains. As a result, there's a lot more growing to do before it reaches its full size and functionality. Human brains are not fully developed until maturity, which takes around 18 to 25 years. The growth in the brain after birth is associated with making and modifying connections between the billions of neurons already present. This is the optimal time for learning, and learning is fastest in the earlier years and then gradually slows until maturity. Humans have a large brain and we have the time to fill it. What we must do is fill our brains with knowledge before the opportunity is lost. Filling the brain with knowledge is learning, and we learn about things and how to do things. We can learn directly by discovery through our senses, or by trial and error through our actions. This way of learning is limited by our own experience. We can also learn indirectly from others and acquire knowledge from their experience. There is no limit to what can be learned this way, and it is much quicker. This second method combines teaching with learning, and it requires communication between teacher and learner. That brings us to the second of the human behaviours in our list, communicating. There is no evidence that we can communicate directly using telepathy, and so we do it indirectly using complex systems of language. Using language, we share what is in one mind with another mind. Most of the time it works quite well, but not always. Any language is a communication system made up from elements and connections. The elements are prompts or symbols. A prompt is something which conveys meaning by resemblance. The sender says or does something which is characteristic of the original, and the receiver recognizes the original from the prompt. A symbol is something which conveys meaning using code. The sender and receiver both learn the same code and recognize the meaning of the symbols. Connecting the elements is composition, the way the elements are connected to each other to convey context and comprehension. As with all complex systems, language is far more than just the sum of the elements. Here are some examples of prompts and symbols used to communicate quantity. We can use prompts like these to represent the number 3. Or we use symbols like these, all of which represent the number 4 in different codes. Another example is communicating with road signs. Prompts can be understood because they resemble something the receiver already knows and recognizes. Symbols can only be understood by learning the code. Images can be either prompts or symbols. The difference is whether the image resembles something or if it has to be learned as part of a code. There are a few words which act as prompts. They sound like what they mean. But most of the words we use are symbols. If we don't speak the same language, we haven't learned the same code, and we can't use symbols to communicate. Symbols on their own only convey a small amount of meaning. It is only when we bring them together using composition that we get the sentences, music, pictures and equations that make up complete communication. We have many different ways of communicating, and they all enable us to share our thoughts and feelings. All communication depends on parts of our anatomy to function. Our faces make expressions and our hands make gestures. We use our vocal cords and mouths to make a wide range of different sounds. We make images with a finger or with handheld tools. Our brains remember all the prompts and the symbols and the skills. Our eyes and ears receive the messages we're sent, and our brains give them meaning. So far, we've seen that we have the capacity and the opportunity to acquire lots of knowledge, and we can use that knowledge to generate ideas. But imagination on its own changes nothing. To turn ideas into working reality, we need the next behaviour on our list, making. Standing upright and walking on two legs has freed the hands to evolve for other uses. The complex structure of the hand, the opposing thumb, and the sensitivity of the fingertips give us a powerful grip, flexibility and dexterity which allow us to manipulate things with an unusual combination of strength and precision. We learn and remember complex motor skills, and we become so good at them that they become automatic. Using communication, we teach those skills to others and pass them on from generation to generation. Our combined mental and physical abilities enable us to make and use tools to adapt the material world for our own benefit. The products of this adaptation are what we call technology. We're not the only species of animal which adapts the material world by making, but we are very good at it. One thing we adapt is our food. We process it before we eat it. A typical human is around 70 kilograms in weight, and a typical human brain around 1.3 kilograms. That makes the brain just under 2% of the total body weight. A human brain uses about 400 calories of energy per day, and a human body uses about 2,000 calories per day in total. That means that the human brain uses about 20% of the total energy used each day. The relatively large human brain uses much more energy than any other animal of a similar weight. All energy comes from food, and all animals, including humans, spend much of their time foraging and eating to supply their energy needs. For most species, the amount of energy they can get from food depends on only two things: diet and time, the calorific value of what they eat, and how long they spend eating it. Humans have a way of getting more energy from the food. That's cooking, the next on our list of behaviours. Two of the earliest examples of human use of technology were the control of fire and the processing of food, which together make cooking. Without cooking, we could not have evolved our large brains. There would not be enough hours in the day to find and eat the amount of food necessary to supply our energy needs. This is one example of anatomy depending on behaviour, rather than the other way around. Cooking does two things. It makes food easier to digest by making it easier to chew and easier to absorb in the digestive tract. This means that more energy can be extracted from a given quantity of food in a much shorter time. Cooking has other beneficial consequences. We can manage with relatively small teeth and jaw muscles, which helps us to produce a wide range of sounds for talking. Smaller muscles make the face more flexible, which makes it more expressive and better at communicating feelings. Because our food is pre-processed, we use much less energy to digest our food, making more energy available to sustain our larger brains. And because we spend less time eating, we have more time to do other things, like communicating, teaching, making, building, and so on. Cooking has played a crucial role in the evolution of modern humans. Before you can cook food, you have to find it. And that brings us to the next on our list of behaviours, gathering. As humans, we are built to roam. Our skeleton, muscles, ligaments, hearts and lungs enable us to walk and run efficiently for long periods over long distances. Roaming enables us to search a large area every day to gather a wide variety of foods which give us an equally varied diet. Roaming also enables us to migrate, to seek out new locations for gathering and to increase our numbers. Unlike most other animals, including the ones that would prey on us, humans evolved to roam in the heat of the day on the African savanna. We can do this because we have a built-in air conditioning system. Instead of being covered in fur, we are covered in sweat glands. When we get hot, we sweat. The sweat evaporates and we cool down. We keep going even when we're hot. This enabled us to gather food in relative safety and to retreat to the security of the campfire when the temperature dropped and carnivores were on the hunt. Other species have to stop, lie down and pant. They have to wait until they cool down enough to move again. Either that or they lie down in the shade, sleep in the day and don't move until the sun goes down. As individuals, humans are relatively weak and vulnerable when compared to many other species of animals. To balance that, we must be collectively very strong. We need to roam in packs. That brings us to the sixth of our set of behaviours, networking. In the episode on social behaviour, we saw that regular and frequent interaction between agents with high levels of learning capacity leads to the development of strong personal relationships and cohesive network structures, whether they're partnership, hierarchy or hybrid networks. The high level of learning capacity in humans gives exactly that outcome in our social groups. We have exceptional levels of cohesion. In the episode on social groups, we saw the importance of governance to the efficiency of social networks. The three systems of governance in social networks are decision-making or politics, coordination of activities, and regulation of behaviour. The behaviours associated with each of these systems are command and collaboration, control and cooperation, and coercion and reciprocity. All of those behaviours depend on communication, and because humans are extremely efficient symbolic communicators, we are efficient at social behaviours. We have efficient governance systems, efficient governance, and efficient networks. In human populations, high levels of structural cohesion and functional efficiency make social groups exceptionally resilient and productive. Human social networks create the conditions which allow us to survive and thrive. In particular, a human social network gives young people the opportunity to develop their large brains and learn everything they need to know. Meat is a highly nutritious food which can provide lots of energy to sustain our large brains. It is also available throughout the year, unlike seasonal plant foods like leaves, fruit and nuts, and can provide that energy all year round. Like other species, we can scavenge for meat while gathering other food, but that only provides low quality meat in small quantities. The only way to get fresh meat in large quantities is by hunting large animals, which is both difficult and dangerous. Humans evolved to hunt for large animals in packs using weapons, and when successful, hunting this way provides enough meat to feed many people for many days. Human hunting benefits from all the behaviours we've looked at earlier in this episode. Successful hunting requires considerable knowledge of the life cycles, habits, strengths and weaknesses of other animals in the ecosystem. Individual knowledge is shared with others and used during the planning and execution of the hunt. Weapons are designed and manufactured which enable the capture of large animals from a safe distance. Prey is pursued relentlessly over long distances in the heat of the day. Hunting parties are strong social networks with efficient decision-making and coordination. And finally, the meat is cooked to make it easier to eat and digest, giving the maximum energy intake for the energy used. Having looked at the 7 behaviours separately, we can now see how they interconnect with each other and our anatomy. If you look at any one of the 7 behaviours and follow the arrows, you will find that it links back to and depends on all the other behaviours and all the anatomical features. None of the behaviours could have evolved independently. For example, we can see that our ability to generate imaginative ideas is dependent on walking on 2 legs, not something which is immediately apparent. All the behaviours and traits evolve together to become the complex system which makes humans what we are today. Every generation the wheel of evolution turns, and small changes are made in each section of the wheel which complement each other at every turn. Millions of turns of the wheel laid the foundations for modern humanity. We have populated the whole planet, adapted the environment to meet our needs, survived and thrived against all the odds. The evolution wheel is a combination of biological evolution and social evolution. In the last 20,000 years, our anatomy has hardly changed at all, but our behaviour has changed beyond recognition. We have gone from this to this to this. Those changes can only be a consequence of social evolution. In the next episode, we'll look at the last 20,000 years of social evolution, when a human population of a few million, in social networks of a few hundreds, became a population of 8 billion, with social networks numbering in the millions.